And welcome to the Hot Seat of College Football Show. I am Trent, your host, as today we're going to be talking about the top 10 programs heading into the college football season, the next upcoming seasons. Let's talk about it. All right, so before we get into this video, make sure you hit the subscribe button. We're so close to 200 subs. We're 10 away. Obviously, we're trying to get to 1,000 before the beginning of next season. Remember to hit the like button. Videos that get more likes get recommended double the amount as normal videos. So please, it's free, cost nothing. Please hit the like button if you enjoyed the show. So let's jump into this graphic. I guess before we get into this, this is my first video back in the studio. I was out for vacation for 5 days. We just got back. I'm happy to be back to be in the studio where we can get actual good production and not vacation production. But let's talk about it. So here are my top 10 programs heading into the next, let's say the next 3 college football seasons. So you can see the honorable mentions at the bottoms. We'll get to those after, but let's start off at number 10, and that is Texas A&M. Texas A&M, they are a little bit of an interesting case because in the past, you look at their 2021 recruiting class where they had 7 or 8 5-stars, and they were all bust. They all transferred out, and none of it worked out. The best player was Connor Wegman, who transferred out to Houston a couple years ago. So A&M, they're a little bit interesting because you can't trust their recruiting because their evaluations aren't perfect. And everyone's not perfect, but especially them. But with the coaching change between Jimbo Fisher to Mike Elko, wow, what a difference has been. Year one, a little bit of disappointment. But remember, before that Texas game, if they win that game, they go to the SEC championship. Again this year, they were, undefeated? If they beat Texas at the end of the year, they go to the SEC championship. So back-to-back years, they have been 1 game away from going to play Georgia in the SEC championship. And obviously this year, I know they go to the playoffs, they lay a dud, and I think they're going to be better than Alabama, but Bama won a playoff game this year, and they didn't. So that's why I got A&M below them. But I love where Mike Elko is taking this team. You're bringing in guys like Isaiah Horton from the transfer from Bama. And I love where this program can go. And I think A&M, yes, you have to beat Texas. Like, you didn't want Texas in the SEC for over a decade. They're here now, and you left to go we're going to go in the SEC to be better. And they have just walked amok on you, went 2-0 over you in their first 2 years in the conference, when the jump from the SEC, or the jump from the Big 12 to the SEC was supposed to be this big, they're not going to be able to handle it, and they have just dog-walked you, even when you're supposed to be favored, like this past year. Remember, they were, the number 3 team in the country, 11-0 undefeated? So, and I picked Texas to win. I got a lot of slack for that, so I'll take my due. Texas beat them by double digits 2 years in a row. So, at 9, and a team that has been number 1 for over 2 decades, and that has, I guess it was under 2 decades, 17 to 18 years, and who has fallen all the way down, and that is Alabama. Under Kalen DeBoer. Kalen DeBoer, coming out of Washington, went to the national title. He goes to Bama when he was at Washington. He goes to Bama, and disappointing 2 years. You look at last year, they're 9-3, missed the playoff, lose embarrassingly to a bad Michigan team in the ReliaQuest Bowl. Now coming into this year, they are pretty good. We think they're pretty good. They lose. They get blown out by Florida State. Florida State turned out to be terrible. But then they beat Georgia on the road. Like, here we go. They keep winning. Then they lose to Oklahoma. And you're like, oh, you look at, like, every Kalen DeBoer loss has been, oh, look how soft they are. The Tennessee game, soft. Michigan game, soft. This year against Florida State, mega soft. It was embarrassing. It was fun for me, but it was embarrassing for Alabama. When they lost to Oklahoma, it was kind of like, it wasn't that soft, but it was like, like when they lost to Oklahoma the year before, 24-3, that was horrible. This year it was a little bit better. Still lose, get blown out by Georgia. You can get destroyed. Yes, you beat Oklahoma in the first round, but you get beat by 35 against Indiana. Who would have ever thought that? Told me that 2 years ago. Told me that a year ago. Unbelievable. Obviously, Indiana won the national title. And they're not one of the best teams of all time. I don't think they're close to that, but they're, one of the best seasons ever, 16-0. It's very, very impressive. Even with a slight, maybe easier schedule, 16-0 is still very, very impressive. Ohio State didn't do it. This team has fallen. If you would have asked me before the season, I would have probably had them around the 7-8. They're all the way at 9. Another one of these 4-loss seasons, they're dropping out of the top 10 because you lose Q Russell and James Smith to Ohio State. You lose Isaiah Horton. You lose Ty Simpson. And now it's between Austin Mack, who's not been able to win the battle for multiple years, and then a redshirt freshman. As much as I make fun of the SEC, it's still a tough conference. So Bama might be in for this one. They might be in for it. And another season maybe missing the playoff. So we'll see. Currently I have them at 9. At 8, and a team that has beaten Alabama, a team that has been beaten multiple times by Alabama, but I like where they're headed much better than where Bama's going, and that's LSU with Lane Kiffin. This is LSU because of Ole Miss and Lane Kiffin. You got guys from there. You had guys leave Ole Miss because they found out contracts of younger players making more money. They leave, they go to LSU. Yes, they didn't get Trinidad. Trinidad stays with Ole Miss. Sues the hell out of the NCAA to get another year. I think he's going to be back with Ole Miss. But with Lane Kiffin now getting Sam Leavitt, this is the second guy from Arizona State. Remember, the last guy, Jaden Daniels, won a Heisman. He came from Arizona State. Now they got Sam Leavitt. I like where this team is going, especially with them being promising, $25 million-ish a year for NIL. I love where LSU is going. At 7, and this is the second to last SEC team. There are 5 SEC teams, but they're all near the bottom half, and that's Texas. And Texas was a team that you could put under LSU, you could put lower, maybe put a little bit higher just because of how much money they have. I just don't really trust Sark that much. Texas has a really tough schedule this year. They had a pretty tough schedule this year. They had an all kind of tough schedule this year. Had really only 3 tough games, and they have been blown out by Georgia. They've been beaten by Ohio State. They've had their number over Alabama, I will say, but they have not really put themselves. They've been underperforming. The past 2 years, the past 3 years, you had losing the semis twice and then not making the playoff this year. If you look at Texas, they kind of remind me of Ohio State a little bit. In 23, kind of reminds me of Ohio State in 21. We obviously didn't get to the playoffs, but you were almost there. In 2022, Ohio State gave all it could to Georgia and lost. Georgia won the national title. In 24, Texas did the same thing to Ohio State. In 2023, that was one of Ohio State's worst years. Yes, they went 11-1 and were one drive away from the 1 seed, winning the Big Ten championship and making the playoff. But Kyle McCord was terrible, and it kind of reminds me of Texas last year in 25. So now in 26, kind of reminds me of Ohio State from 24. And Texas did not have the offseason that Ohio State had to get that team and get that roster. But I would not be surprised. If you told me that Texas made the national title this year and that we were a year early on Arch, I would not be surprised. And I actually might call that shot earlier before most others. At 6, I have Notre Dame. And Notre Dame, it's a little tough because they're not in a conference. But their schedule is always super easy. They should have made the playoffs this past year. And the only reason why they didn't was because of a tiebreaker in the ACC where Miami didn't get there to the ACC championship. If they did, they would have won. You only get one group of 5 team in. Notre Dame gets in the playoff at the 11th seed. So they should have made the playoff. They just happened. A 5-way tiebreaker with Duke was the reason why Notre Dame did not make the college football playoff. But I really like what Marcus Freeman's doing with this team. I think he's the best coach they've had in a long, long time. They recruit so much better than I thought you could at Notre Dame. They make the national title 2 years ago. They have more 5-stars than most of the SEC teams combined. They got Quincy Porter and Mylan Graham, wide receivers from Ohio State. So they're doing well in the portal. They have a returning quarterback. They lost Jeremiah Love, who was a Heisman finalist. So I think Notre Dame's on the up and the up and the up. They've just, every year, the past 3 or 4 years, have just run into Ohio State. They've ran into Ohio State, and Ohio State's been kind of the thing that's really derailed their season. They didn't do it last year, but they ran into Miami, who made the national title. But yeah, a team that we actually was just talking about that beat Notre Dame is Miami. And a team, I mean, typical that is Texas back. The U is back, at least for now, under Mario Cristobal, as they have had a Heisman finalist, the number 1 overall pick. They had a veteran quarterback, made the national title. Now getting another veteran quarterback who will just be, I think, be an exact copy of Cam Ward and Darian Mensah from Duke. And with the money they're getting, the violence they have, the good offensive and defensive line, the trench play Miami's had has led them to be, I think, a top 5 program. I love what they have been doing. I mean, I hate Miami, but they've been so good, and they've been kind of under the radar. I mean, they missed the play. They're one of the last teams. They were one of the first teams out 2 years ago. They are the last team in this year from the FBS. And they run the table all the way to the national championship, and we're literally 40 yards away from winning the national title. If they score, remember it was only a 6-point game, they win the national title 28-27. Miami was like 30, 40, 35, 40, 45 yards away from winning the national title. And now that was with Carson Beck at quarterback. Carson Beck's terrible. Now with Darian Mensah, yes, they're losing Francis Maligawa and they're losing Ruben Bain. But they still have the Bell guy, the other tackle, the left tackle back, Akeem Mesidor. I think maybe he might be leaving. But they got Damon Wilson, transfer from Missouri, who I really wanted to get at Ohio State. So I like where Miami is at 4. And the first Big Ten team on this list, and that's Indiana. Some people have Indiana higher. I mean, they're a portal team. They're getting better at high school, but they're still a portal team, and you're not going to hit every year on the portal. I don't care how good you are. You can't. You can't hit every single year. And I think, yes, Indiana won the national title, but I think that was that team, and that team's gone. Most of that team is gone. You have some guys like Charlie Becker back, and I think Carter Smith is coming back. But like D'Angelo Pons is gone, Fernando Mendoza's gone, Surratt's gone, Omar Cooper's gone. So you have to replace a lot. So I think the schedule they have is somewhat easy, kind of, which they're never going to play any non-conference games. So they're never going to have one loss in the non-conference. So that'll always put them higher in the rankings, in Big Ten standings, or not Big Ten standings, but playoff standings. So yeah, I got them at 4. If they have another one of these seasons where they make the Final 4, the Final 8, might be bump up Pirates because Georgia has not won a playoff game in 3 years. But Georgia's also won 2 national titles in the past, 4 or 5 years? 6 years? So yeah. And at 3, just talking about, I got Georgia. They've not won a playoff game in 3 years, but they have won the SEC back-to-back, which I think that actually says a lot of things about the SEC, that you can win your conference back-to-back, but you have not won a playoff game in 3 years. You've lost to what? You didn't make it, and then you lost to Notre Dame, and then Ole Miss, who's an SEC. They beat earlier, but yeah. I feel Kirby's slipping a little bit. The arrests are still happening. Not as much as they used to, but they're still happening. But they're the top team in the top program in the SEC, I think, currently, ahead of Texas and LSU. And I like what Kirby's doing. I do. Do I believe in Gunnar Stockton? A little bit. I think he's not as good as... I think he's a step down from Stetson Bennett, but he's a step up from Carson Beck. Kirby's still a top 3 coach with Ryan Day and Signetti. And I like where they are. I want to see them win a playoff game before I can move them any higher. At 2 is Oregon, and you're like, okay, top 2. The difference is, one thing Ohio State's won national titles, and they just won a national championship. Oregon has been absolutely destroyed in the biggest games over and over and over and over again, but they've gotten closer. Before, they were getting destroyed in conference championship. Then they won the Big Ten. Then they get destroyed in the playoffs. Then they don't make the playoffs, but then they make the playoffs. They get destroyed in the quarterfinals. Then they win a quarterfinal game. Then they get destroyed in the semis. Now can they win a semis game? Does that mean they're going to go to the national title and lose, or are they going to go to the national title and win? I don't know. But I think with everyone coming back like Dante Moore, DeCorian Moore, Evan Stewart, I think Mateo Uyunglele too. Like they're bringing a bunch of guys back. And Dylan Thieneman, I think, too. So I really like where Oregon is. Excuse me. Do I think they're going to win the national title this year? Probably not. I definitely think they're going to be one of the favorites. I mean, Ohio State was the favorite the entire year and was not even close to winning the national championship. They lost in the quarterfinals. But yeah, I really like where Dan Lanning has his team. I think they're getting closer. And I would not be shocked if they made the national title within the next 2 years. And at number one, I have the Ohio State Buckeyes as the number one program in the country currently. The reason why is just, I mean, it's a factory. It's the NFL coordinator factory with now bringing in a bunch of transfers and then also having exclusively 4 and 5 stars throughout the country, then bringing in some 3 stars from Ohio. I think the mix of all of that is going to make the perfect blend in recruiting. The problem is they don't spend as much money as everybody else. I think they'll be fine. Again, Day is one of the best recruiters in the country. He's one of the best coaches in the country, one of the best talent developers in the country. It'll be a question with Brian Hartline leaving, but I think Cortez Hankman will still do a good job. This is Jeremiah's last year. If he can bring in at least one more national title in his career and bring in at least one Heisman, I mean, the fact that Day has not had a Heisman ever is crazy. I think he needs to have one this year. But I like where the program's set up with Tavian St. Clair and Bo Jackson, Chris Henry Jr. I like the guys they're bringing in. But yeah, we'll see. I got Ohio State at 1, Oregon 2, Georgia 3, Indiana 4, Miami 5, Notre Dame 6, Texas 7, LSU 8, Bama 9, A&M 10. Some honorable mentions. I had USC. I think Lincoln Riley has him is really good. Michigan, we'll see about Kyle Whittingham, how long he stays there. They still have controversy, but I still think they are pretty decent. They have a really hard schedule this year. I had Texas Tech, and Texas Tech is kind of just the representative out of the Big 12. Oklahoma, I like Brent Venables. I think he's getting better at offense. I think he's really, really slow. And the last one's Washington. I think Washington, will Jed Fish take him to the promised land? I don't think so. But I think he'll eventually leave, and I actually really like where this Washington program is. I think they actually are punching up in weight ever since moving from the Pac-12 to the Big Ten. So that is my top 10 my top 10 programs in college football heading into the future for the next 3 to 5 to 10 seasons. I hope you guys all enjoyed the video. Make sure to hit the subscribe button and leave a comment down below. Who do you think is the number one program in the country? But that's all I have for you guys tonight, and as always,